a shepherd boy, forgotten by his own father, overlooked by a prophet, yet chosen by God. This is the story of David, the boy who ran toward a giant when an entire army ran away. But this story is not just about one battle. It's about a king consumed by jealousy, who hunted the very man who served him. It's about a prince who gave up his throne for friendship. It's about spears thrown, secret escapes through windows, and a farewell between two friends who would never meet again in peace. You will witness David spare the life of the man who wanted him dead, and weep over his grave when he fell. You will see how a boy anointed in secret waited more than a decade before he wore the crown. Stay with us until the end, because this story will teach you how to face your giants, how to wait for God's timing when everything seems lost, and why true power is not proven by what you take, but by what you refuse to take. Before we begin, if these stories speak to your heart, subscribe to ARC Films and turn on notifications so you never miss a new film. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. It means the world to us. Now, let's begin. Israel had its first king, but he would not last. God had chosen Saul, but Saul disobeyed again and again. So God decided to replace him. He told the prophet Samuel to go to Bethlehem, to the house of a man named Jesse. Among his sons, the next king was waiting, but Samuel hesitated.
If Saul finds out, he will be furious.
God told him to keep the mission secret. Go to Bethlehem. Gather Jesse's family. No one must know the real reason. Samuel obeyed. When he arrived, Jesse brought his sons before the prophet. The eldest came first, Eliab, tall and strong. Samuel thought, surely this is the one. But God stopped him. Not this one. You see his appearance? I see his heart. Then came Abinadab. God said no. Then Shammah. Again, no. One by one, the remaining sons passed before Samuel. 7 sons. 7 times God looked at their hearts, and 7 times he rejected them.
Are these all your sons? There is still the youngest Maav, out tending the sheep.
The youngest, so overlooked that his own father had not bothered to bring him. Samuel insisted. Bring him. They brought the boy in. His name was David, young, ruddy, the last anyone expected. He looked nothing like a king. But God spoke. This is the one. Samuel poured oil over David's head while his brothers watched. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him and remained from that day forward. No one announced it to the nation. No one could. This anointing was a secret, and David simply returned to his sheep, carrying a promise only God could see. Years passed. David grew stronger in the fields, tending his father's sheep. When lions or bears came for the flock, he fought them. Each battle shaped him. Each victory deepened his faith. Meanwhile, Israel faced a new threat. The Philistines gathered for war and camped on one hill. Saul and the men of Israel camped on the opposite hill. Between them lay the valley of Elah. From the Philistine camp emerged a champion named Goliath. He stood over 9 feet tall, covered in bronze armor, with a spear as thick as a wooden beam.
Choose a man to fight me. If he wins, we will be your servants. But if I win, you will serve us. I defy the armies of Israel, Vath. Send me a man.
40 days he issued this challenge. 40 days no one answered, not even Saul. And back in Bethlehem, a shepherd boy had no idea that God was about to call him to the battlefield. One day, David's father sent him on an errand.
Take this bread and grain to your brothers at the camp. See how they are doing, and bring back news.
David left the sheep with a keeper and set out early the next morning. He arrived just as both armies were taking their positions, shouting battle cries across the valley. David left the supplies with an officer and ran to find his brothers. As he was greeting them, Goliath stepped out from the Philistine lines and roared his usual challenge. David watched the soldiers of Israel turn and flee, but he did not run. He stood and listened as Goliath mocked the army of God. The men around him whispered about the reward. Whoever kills the giant would receive riches, the king's daughter in marriage, and his family would never pay taxes again. David's heart burned, not for the reward, for the honor of God.
Who is this Philistine that he dares to defy the armies of the living God?
Eliab, his eldest brother, overheard him, and his anger grew.
Why did you come here? Who is watching those few sheep? I know your arrogance. You just came to watch the battle.
David turned away and kept asking his question to others. Soon, word of his boldness reached the king. Saul sent for him. When David stood before the throne, he spoke without hesitation.
Let no one lose heart because of this giant. I will go and fight him.
Saul looked at David and shook his head.
You cannot fight this Philistine. You are only a boy. He has been a warrior since his youth.
But David stood firm. He told Saul how he had killed a lion and a bear with his own hands while protecting his father's sheep. The same God who delivered him then would deliver him now. Saul studied the boy's face. There was no fear in his eyes.
Go, and the Lord be with you.
Saul dressed David in his own armor. But the king was the tallest man in Israel, and David was still young. The helmet covered his eyes. The coat of mail dragged him down. He could barely walk. He stopped.
I cannot fight with these. I have not tested them.
He removed the armor, all of it. Instead, David picked up his shepherd's staff. He walked to the brook that ran through the valley and knelt down. From the water, he chose 5 smooth stones and dropped them into his shepherd's bag. Then he took his sling in hand and walked toward the giant. Goliath saw David coming and laughed.
Am I a dog that you come at me with a stick? Come here, I will feed your flesh to the birds and the beasts.
David did not flinch.
You come to me with sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day, the Lord will deliver you into my hand.
Goliath moved forward. The ground shook beneath his steps, but David did not retreat. He ran, straight toward the giant. He reached into his bag, pulled out a stone, loaded his sling, and released it. The stone flew. It struck Goliath in the forehead and sank deep. The giant's eyes went wide, his massive body swayed, and he crashed face first into the dirt. The valley fell silent. David ran to the fallen giant, drew Goliath's own sword, and finished him. When the Philistines saw their champion was dead, Panic swept through their ranks. They turned and ran. The men of Israel, the same men who had trembled for 40 days, rose up with a shout and chased them all the way to the gates of their cities. The impossible had happened. A shepherd boy had defeated the giant, but David knew the truth. It was not his victory, it was the Lord's. When the battle was over, Abner, the commander of Saul's army, brought David before the king. David still held the head of Goliath in his hand.
David, Jesse's son, you have done what no man in Israel could do.
The Lord delivered him into my hand.
Jonathan, the king's son, stood nearby. He had watched this shepherd defy a giant in the name of God. And as David spoke, something took hold of Jonathan's heart. He felt bound to David, not as a rival, but as a brother. He loved him as his own life. They made a covenant that day, a bond deeper than blood, stronger than ambition. Then Jonathan did something remarkable. He removed his own robe and placed it on David's shoulders. He handed him his armor, his sword, his bow, his belt, everything that marked him as the crown prince. It was an act of surrender. Jonathan, the rightful heir, was saying without words, "You are the one God has chosen." When the army returned, women poured out of every city to meet them, dancing, singing, playing tambourines. Their voices rang through the streets. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Saul heard it. His face darkened.
They give David 10,000s and me only thousands. What more can he have but the kingdom?
From that day on, Saul watched David with jealous eyes. The Spirit of the Lord had departed from him, and a darker spirit now stirred within. David remained in Saul's service. He went wherever the king sent him and succeeded in every mission. Saul placed him over the men of war. The people loved him. The soldiers respected him. Even Saul's servants approved. But none of that softened the king's heart. The man who once welcomed David now saw him as a threat. Jealousy was not the only thing troubling Saul. A tormenting spirit had taken hold of him, dark moods that left him raving in his own house. One day, as David played the harp to soothe him, Saul sat with a spear in his hand. The music that once brought him peace now stirred something darker. Without warning, he hurled the spear across the room. David saw it coming. He dodged, and the spear struck the wall behind him. It was not the last time. Twice Saul tried to pin David to the wall with his spear. Twice David escaped. David looked at Saul and saw the truth. He would never be safe here again. Saul sent men to surround David's house. They would strike him down by morning. But Michal, David's wife and Saul's own daughter, discovered the plan. She came to David in the darkness.
If you do not escape tonight, tomorrow you will be gone forever.
Michal lowered David through a window, and he escaped. David fled first to the prophet Samuel and told him everything, but he could not leave without seeing Jonathan. The two friends met in secret. David told Jonathan that Saul was determined to kill him, but Jonathan could not believe it. His father had never spoken of such a thing to him.
Whatever you need, I will do it for you.
So they devised a plan. David would not appear at the king's table for the new moon feast. His empty seat would force Saul to reveal his true intentions. When Saul noticed David's absence, Jonathan made an excuse for him, and Saul's rage exploded.
You son of a perverse woman! Do you think I do not know that you have chosen Jesse's son over your own kingdom? As long as he lives, you will never be king. Bring him to me, he must die.
Jonathan pleaded for David's life. Saul hurled his spear at his own son. Now Jonathan knew the truth. His father's rage was murder, fixed and final. The next morning, Jonathan went to the field where David was hiding. He brought a young servant to gather arrows. Jonathan shot an arrow beyond the boy and called out, "The arrow is beyond you. Hurry, do not delay." The servant knew nothing, but David, hidden nearby, understood. It was the signal. He must flee. When they were alone, David came out. The two men embraced and wept.
Go in peace. The Lord will be between me and you, and between my children and your children, forever.
They kissed each other and said goodbye. David disappeared into the wilderness. He would not see Jonathan again for a long time, and never again in peace. David lived in the wilderness, hiding in caves, gathering a band of men who followed him, always moving. Saul pursued him relentlessly. One day, Saul took 3,000 soldiers to the wilderness of En-Gedi. Near the sheepfolds along the road, there was a cave. Saul went inside alone, not knowing that David and his men were hidden in the back of that very cave. David's men whispered urgently, "This is the day. The Lord has delivered your enemy into your hands." David crept forward in the shadows. He drew his blade, but instead of striking Saul, he quietly cut off a corner of the king's robe. Immediately his heart troubled him.
The Lord forbid that I should raise my hand against him. He is the Lord's anointed.
He held his men back. They did not touch Saul. When Saul left the cave, David stepped outside and called after him.
My lord the king.
Saul turned. David bowed low, then held up the piece of robe for Saul to see. He told the king that the Lord had delivered him into his hand that very day. Yet he had spared him. The torn robe was proof. David could have harmed him, but he did not.
There is no evil in my heart toward you, yet you hunt me.
Saul wept.
You are more righteous than I. I know now that you will surely be king.
But David did not return with Saul. He and his men went back to their stronghold, and the chase continued. The Philistines gathered for war. The armies clashed on Mount Gilboa, and Israel was overwhelmed. Men fled and fell across the mountain. The Philistines pressed hard after Saul and his sons. Jonathan fell, Abinadab fell, Malchishua fell. Then the archers found Saul. Their arrows struck him, and he was badly wounded. Surrounded and failing, Saul turned to his armor-bearer.
Draw your sword. Do not let these men take me alive.
But the armor-bearer was terrified. He would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell upon it. When the armor-bearer saw that the king was gone, he did the same. Saul, his 3 sons, and his men all died that day. The next morning, the Philistines found Saul's body on the mountain. They dishonored it and put it on display for all to see. But the men of Jabesh Gilead remembered how Saul had once delivered them. They traveled through the night, took down the bodies of Saul and his sons, burned them, and buried their bones. When word reached David at Ziklag, he tore his clothes and wept. He mourned for Saul. He mourned for Jonathan, his brother, his friend, and he sang a lament that would be remembered for generations.
The beauty of Israel is slain upon the high places. How are the mighty fallen? 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 And the men in the midst of battle.
After the death of Saul, David inquired of the Lord,
Shall I go up to one of the cities of Judah?
Go up to Hebron.
So David went, with his wives, his men, and their families. And there the men of Judah came and anointed him king over their tribe. But the nation was divided. Saul had one surviving son, Ishbosheth, and he ruled the northern tribes. For 7 years there was conflict in the land. David grew stronger while the house of Saul grew weaker. Then the elders of all Israel came to David at Hebron. They remembered how he had led them in battle, even when Saul was king. They remembered what the Lord had spoken. You shall shepherd my people Israel and be ruler over them. And there, before the Lord, they anointed David king over all Israel. He had waited for more than a decade since Samuel first poured oil on his head in his father's house. David reigned 40 years. He governed Jerusalem and made it his city. He brought the ark of God into its walls. He defeated every enemy who rose against him, and the Lord was with him. The shepherd boy had become the king. The promise given in Bethlehem had come to pass. What can we learn from this ancient story? From David, we learn that God sees what others overlook. He was the youngest, so forgotten that his own father left him in the fields. No one thought to bring him before the prophet, but God does not measure worth by appearance or age. He looks at the heart. When the world counts you out, remember, you may be exactly the one God is preparing. From the battle, we learn that faith is not the absence of giants. It is the courage to face them. David did not pretend Goliath was small. He simply believed that God was bigger. He ran toward what everyone else ran from. When life places an impossible challenge before you, do not wait for the fear to leave. Move forward anyway. Faith is proven in motion. From Jonathan, we learn that true friendship surrenders what it could claim. He was the crown prince. The throne was his by right. Yet when he saw God's hand on David, he gave away his robe, his armor, his future. Real love does not compete. It celebrates another's calling, even at personal cost. From Saul, we learn the danger of a jealous heart. He began with blessing but ended in ruin. Jealousy blinded him to the very man who served him faithfully. When we resent another's success, we become prisoners of our own bitterness. And from David's restraint in the cave, we learn that power is not proven by what we take. but by what we refuse to take. He could have killed Saul. His men urged him to do it, but David would not raise his hand against the Lord's anointed. True strength knows when to hold back. This is a story of a shepherd who became a king, not by seizing power, but by trusting God's timing through years of waiting, running, and hiding. It reminds us that the path to purpose is rarely straight. But every lion fought in the fields, every stone chosen from the brook, every moment of faithfulness in obscurity, it all matters. God is writing a story with your life. Trust Him with the chapters you do not yet understand.